Hello, Sagittarius. Welcome to Cancer season. Here we are. Cancer season is a period of time that is really asking for introspection, for depth, for a more integrated awareness of your psychology and also the psychology of your relationships. This is a period of time that is definitely inviting you to slow down. As we move into Cancer season from Gemini season, there is a kind of remarkable deepening or slowness that I feel for you. Some of you may be feeling a kind of what I'm going to say is like the impact or the residue of big social energy and social output. And at the end of Cancer season, we have another really significant wave of social energy and social output coming in. And so there's a very brief period of time that you really need to rest, is the feeling that I'm getting. So from the solstice on June 20th until at least the end of the month and the beginning of July, Sagittarius, please give yourself some space and time for quietness. And if your life is busy and is not about to give you that space and time, then you have to create practices that allow you to access it. This can look like a commitment to meditation, contemplation, or simply just lying down for like 10 minutes in the middle of the day. Insist upon your nap time, right? Give yourself space and time to rest, to let your mind relax. This is also a period of time in which maybe some important conversations need to happen. And these are conversations that may have already begun or thought processes that have already been initiated. But a lot of you are needing to get deeper into something right now. And so the depth that is being asked for is the depth of intimacy, vulnerability, and trust. Intimacy, vulnerability, and trust is built over time, and it is built through repetitions and iterations of process. Conflict is actually something that can help build intimacy, vulnerability, and trust when we are able to invest ourselves in repair processes. And an important part of repair process is mutual work to understand where other people are coming from. Investing ourselves in capacities for multidimensionality and perspective is really important when it comes to building trust, building intimacy, and sustaining relationships in long-term ways. So I feel like a lot of you are moving into some new space of depth. Now, this new space of depth could be with yourself. It could be with intimate others. It could be with community or with family. It could be with business partners. But something is emerging in Cancer season that requires psychological skill. It requires time, tenderness, and care. It requires solid containers, and those containers could have to do with boundaries, with accountability agreements, with time commitments, agreed upon outcomes, etc., things like that. But holding some kind of space for this process also feels important. So in whatever it is that you're doing, whether you are seeking to build new and more solid foundations inside of relationships, or whether you are seeking to actually change the agreements of something, some of you might be looking at kind of untethering or untangling your life from particular relationships. Whether or not you're moving closer or moving farther away, I think that ultimately this period of time also is asking you to cultivate trust in yourself. And how you cultivate trust in yourself has a lot to do with the pacing that you are moving with. Now, fire as an energy and Sagittarius in particular can be an energy that moves far fast. Sagittarius as an archetype is often represented as the archer. And in this archetype, we see a horizon, we shoot an arrow, and then we go after it, and we get to that location, and then we see another horizon. So Sagittarius is an energy that likes to keep it moving. But in this activity, sometimes pacing isn't always invested in ways that can build coherence and trust. So there is a phrase that maybe you've heard because it feels like a phrase that's definitely alive in the zeitgeist right now. I first came across this phrase in Adrienne Maree Brown's book, Emergent Strategy, and the phrase is moving at the speed of trust, or you might think about moving at the speed of relationship. People change day to day, month to month, season to season, and as we go through changes, if we maintain relationship with one another, what happens is that we build a kind of tempering and conditioning inside of the relationship. We get to experience fluctuations, ups and downs, moving together, moving apart. We get to experience one another as we are hungry and cranky and activated and agitated, as well as bringing our best selves forward. Pacing feels really important for you right now, and especially for those of you who are working to restructure foundational aspects of your life. Again, moving closer together or moving further away, increasing a sense of personal stability and belonging, regardless of who's around you or what you're doing. Really needs to feel that you are moving through the tests of time. How do you bring yourself back to the process again and again and again? How do you work the content or work the issue so that you really have an internal sense of you are bringing your full capacity and your intelligence and your process? You're not rushing something along. You're not trying to get something to somewhere that it's not actually ready for. And as you give yourself to the process, as you reduce urgency, as you allow yourself to linger in whatever needs to come to the surface, to be felt, to be expressed, to be known or unknown, you're learning a lot about yourself. So this definitely feels like a season, feels like a time when a lot is happening underneath the surface. And Sagittarius needs to create space and time for that underworld, under earth process to be happening. Now, over the course of Cancer season, there is also a feeling of growth and enlivenment in your path and sense of purpose. A new adventure is on the horizon. And so this archetype of the archer is still, very much in vogue for you, Sagittarius, throughout your life. Even if your life is asking you to slow down, to give time and space for process, and to invest yourself in pacing, this is actually a movement that is allowing for a new kind of adventure. And I feel like the adventures of intimacy or the adventures of trust, the adventures of vulnerability could be the title of the next chapter. This doesn't require other people necessarily. This could be the adventure of self-intimacy, the adventure of self-trust, the adventure of intimacy with spirit, or the adventure of trust with the unknown, as well, of course, as trust and intimacy and vulnerability with others. Your spirit right now is exalted by the sensation of intimacy and depth and perception. When you feel like you are getting into the heart of something, you feel excited. I'm thinking about how like tragedy and comedy go together, how grief makes space for love, how the finitude of life, right? The fact that we're not going to be here forever makes love the potent stuff that it is. And so there is this feeling that I have that the more that you give yourself to the depth processes that you are experiencing, the more this sense of new horizon and adventure or openness, exaltance in your spirit opens. This is definitely a time to be humble and attuned, to strive for listening, and to exemplify leadership through your capacities for intimacy, for process, for pacing, and perception. Now, towards the end of Cancer season, we have the planet Mars moving into your opposite sign, Gemini, where it is going to hang out basically from July 20th until the beginning of September, the first week of September. Jupiter is also here. Jupiter is the ruler or the governing planet of Sagittarius, so it's an important sign for you. And as Mars enters your opposite sign, there's a symbol here of acceleration and growth in your relationships. Now, this could be a period of time that is asking for a lot more engagement when it comes to your attention, your awareness, and your curiosity. This could also be a period of time in which relationships themselves are accelerating. They're growing quickly. And with all of this kind of emphasis on trust building and vulnerability, certainly that is definitely an option on the table for many of you. Now, some of you are disentangling and moving towards more differentiation. And so Mars coming into your seventh house can also indicate a period of time of emphasis on separation and potentially conflict. Now, I said this before, but I'll say it again. Conflict can actually be one of the ways that we build trust, that we increase our sense of intimacy, and that we get to know our own vulnerability. And so when I say conflict, I don't want you to feel afraid. I do want to say that it is definitely a time to invest yourself in the potentials of creative friction, creative tension. I would also say that this is a period of time in which shared goals are something that you can get a lot of energy from and actively invest a lot of energy into. And so for those of you who are working collaboratively or in partnership towards some kind of destination together, this is definitely an influence that really gives a lot of energy to those kinds of projects. Now, I do want to give you some precautions. This is an energy that for some of you, you really want to be careful with. And I'm going to say, don't gossip. Don't be petty, and don't invest in like mean girl kinds of modes. Even if you feel like you're in the right, even if you feel like you're gossiping about people or being judgmental about people who you actually really don't have a lot of respect for. Don't indulge that kind of energy. That kind of energy is divisive and fracturing to your own mind. It is going to produce actual hormones and chemicals in your body that are stress hormones. It is going to diminish your vitality. It is going to create distraction and fragmentation and attract more conflict into your life. If you feel judgmental or catty or petty, that's fine. You're a person. I feel that way all the time. But indulging it and externalizing it is really different than working the process of it. And so I'm going to go back to what I started with and say, this is a period of time that you really want to invest in introspection and working your own psychology. So if someone is a reflection space for your agitation, for your judgment, for, your saltiness to come forward, really use that provocation as an invitation to get to know yourself better. Notice what happens when that energy emerges in your body. Consider, contemplate, meditate on what would happen, what you would be contributing to energetically if you express that energy out into the world. If you have a problem with something, if you feel like something is wrong, speak that truth. Be authentic. This is definitely a period of time that is asking you to do the work of deepening intimacy and trust building, and that requires honesty. And honesty sometimes requires a little bit of conflict energy to come forward. You might have something to say that somebody else doesn't want to hear. You might be quite displeased with somebody else. Be straightforward with your energy. Don't divert it into gossip. Don't divert it into meanness. Use that energy intentionally. Again, because if you don't, not only might it boomerang back at you in a way that you don't want, but it's going to produce dis-ease in your own body. So don't nourish that. Do find shared interests. Do connect with curiosity. Try and use this energy to see around a situation. And if you're feeling a lot of judgment in some kind of direction or conflict energy coming up, see around it in multiple different kinds of perspectives. Notice the tendency for othering, and inside of othering, strongly self-identifying, and see if you can shake that up and disrupt it through curiosity, through invitations to experience perspective a little bit differently. And again, I want to amplify creative tension and the energy of Eros, which comes in through difference. And so even though sometimes differences can be infuriating, agitating, and definitely aggressive or lead us into conflict, they are also the sites of our deepest attractions and most fulfilling and exciting intimacies. In difference, we find Eros. So I invite you to feel into the life energy that gets sparked in you when you encounter what rubs you in a certain way. And Sagittarius, I think that Cancer season is a good time for that. I hope any or all of this is useful for you. I am wishing you all the best in Cancer season and beyond. Bye for now.